He fancied a career in music, but was a terrible composer. He wanted to be a painter, but lacked vision and aptitude. He wanted to change the face of dance, but had no dance training whatsoever. By his own admission, this poor, misguided soul had no real gifts. He went on to become one of the most influential artistic figures of the 20th century. Despite his claim to the contrary, Serge Diaghilev, founder of the famous Diaghilev Ballet Russe, had many gifts, most notably a talent scout, an impresario, and a visionary who encouraged collaboration in the arts.
He started something so incredibly special that didn't get followed up on, which was to gather the geniuses of the time, multimedia, if you will. Great artists, great musicians, great choreographers, whether they were untried or whatnot. I mean, many times he obviously had quite a good eye.
Diaghilev was born in 1872 into a wealthy family that encouraged a love of the arts. After failing to establish himself in Russia's artistic circles, Diaghilev turned to art criticism. It was in this capacity that he first began to dictate public taste. As a journalist, Diaghilev encouraged modern movements and urged Russians to reveal the richness of their art to the world. He took up the task himself, staging exhibitions of Russian art in the West. Their success led him to organize a series of Russian concerts, even Russian opera, here at the world-renowned Paris Opera. But it was on the evening of May 19th, 1909, that Diaghilev truly made his mark. That night, the curtain rose for the first time on the most daring and innovative group in the history of the arts, the Diaghilev Ballet Russe.
He created that new way of presenting the dance, the Ballet Russe. Why? Because his first love was certainly music, and he was a good musician, could always play by piano all what he wanted to hear and all what he wanted to analyze. And he was in Russia having a magazine of Mir Искусство, the world of art. So his second love was painting. And when he brought out of Russia what was Russian art for him, he first brought music. Then he brought international exhibitions of painting to make Europe understand how great was the Russian painting. And then he had only the brilliant idea to put the two things together and present it theatrically with the ballet.
took the art form away from the imperial court-like presentational form of dance as we knew it then, and pushed the envelope, used the theater and the dance as a vehicle to challenge the audience's assumptions.
I think this idea was something very strong, and it's still something that all the company are looking for today, to be really identified as what they want to be and to not all be the same. And I think that was so clear that what you could see with the ballet of Monte Carlo, of Diaghilev, was unique. You couldn't see it anywhere else.
As dancers, Diaghilev's company established a style free from the conventions of the classicists, free in movement, free in staging, free in length. It presented a series of short ballets with daring subject matters danced in a variety of styles.
What he refused to do, which I feel is so important, was not ask the audience what they wanted to see. He led them, you know, and in his own way, sort of was the first to sort of break all the rules. You know, if you really think about it, the timing of it was sort of the first idea of like modern dance.
Diaghilev could hardly have achieved any of this without the contribution of some outstanding talents. Despite the limited financial resources, Diaghilev assembled a veritable who's who of 20th century artists. Over the years, his production designers included such renowned visual artists as Pablo Picasso and Salvador Dali, and his composers were the likes of such luminaries as Igor Stravinsky and Serge Prokofiev, to name a few. He also put together a company of some of the most exciting young dancers in Europe, including one who would propel the company into a seminal force in world ballet, Václav Nijinsky. Few people saw Nijinsky dance. Our only knowledge of him is gathered through photographs, reminiscences, and speculation. But by all accounts, nobody was prepared for this adventurous young talent with the visceral style.
Nijinsky was always a scandal, because I think that people don't accept right away new pictures. They are used to old visualization of an art, and then to make them visualize in a different way, and it's very hard.
I think as a human being, he probably was somebody non-common. I mean, somebody that liked the kind of danger in life. So if all that take-off risk, all that kind of shocking situation happened, it's probably because maybe I could even say there was a kind of form of decadence in his mind. And it's probably what make also the difference between a good artist and an exceptional artist. In an exceptional artist, in a way, something goes wrong. And that's what can also be the surprise for the people, because normality, we all know. When you present to somebody some things that is strange, that you never saw before, or that you never realized before, it has to come from a brain that is in a way a little bit disturbed. And we always say that craziness, what is being crazy? Being crazy is just not being normal, but in a sense, that's maybe the normality. To be crazy is the people that have the capacity to just go further.
Nijinsky scored his first great success in 1911 here at Covent Garden. By that time, the Diaghilev Ballet Russe had become a mainstay in Paris, and was enjoying engagements in Monte Carlo and in London. That season, the company mixed in a new work with some of the old crowd pleasers, a vehicle for the athletic young Nijinsky. It was entitled Le Spectre de la Rose. The simple, tender tale of a young girl who relives the glory of a formal ball when her souvenir rose comes momentarily to life, Le Spectre de la Rose became one of the most popular ballets in the Diaghilev repertoire.
It's very, very long pieces to dance. You jump, you turn, and it's very difficult physically to go until the end. But also because it's not only physical, you have to express a real spirit of the rose. To say and to do at the same time, there is a relation between the spirit and the body. And if you can do that, I mean, in the Spectre de la Rose, it's okay. If you are not able to do that, I think you don't have to do Spectre de la Rose. And that's what I like in Spectre de la Rose.
Nijinsky's performance in the role made such an impact that many a dancer since has had a hard time living up to it.
You're talking about Spectre de la Rose. I worked on this role already in 1944, so when I did it again with Madame Nijinsky, it was very interesting because she had seen her brother performing it. So she knew how she wanted it. Nijinsky was half and half, powerful, fast, strong, but at the same time, he was graceful. All his movements were to enhance this. He possessed her. He guided her. He was leading her like a lover who makes a young woman discover love. You see? Nijinsky was expecting to see all of this in the role, and that's why it was so difficult to perform.
Le Spectre de la Rose was devised by a brilliant young choreographer, one of many Diaghilev would discover, each of whom would go on to develop dance companies in countries with no dance lineage. His name was Mikhail Fokine. Like Diaghilev, Fokine could not accept the notion that the kind of ballet popularized by the Romantics was beyond reform. Why should a ballerina appear in a tutu if it's not reflective of the character she's portraying? Why would that same character be wearing point shoes? Why would this character be expressing herself in movements taught at a dance school? Fokine called Petrushka, which he choreographed for the Ballet Russe later that same year, quote, one of the most complete demonstrations of my application of dance reforms, unquote. It is the sad tale of a puppet with a human heart who longs to leave his puppet body for the love of a ballerina, but is brutally rejected. Up until Fokine, the male dancer always played stalwart, exemplary characters. Fokine, first with Le Spectre de la Rose, then Petrushka, began to change all that. Petrushka, for example, is a sad, vulnerable creature. His arms, shoulders, head, all turn in toward a limp torso. And when he dances, his movements are jerky and uncontrolled. You can't dance Swan Lake that way.
This is what I find very difficult, because to be bent all the time, to be squeezed all the time, to be all the time, face cannot really show the emotions, have to be dull face. So it's always difficult. I find this difficult. Even I could show through, say, steps, but it's not enough and much steps in Petrushka. So I always find this difficult.
Despite the successes of Spectre and Petrushka, the following year, Diaghilev, ever the progressive, decided that he wanted a new choreographer with fresh ideas. The ideas were fresh, all right, but so was the audience. Up until L'après-midi d'une femme, choreographed by the company's star, Václav Nijinsky, Diaghilev's productions had been met with great enthusiasm. And though this short scene of a faun's encounter with a group of nymphs seems fairly innocent today, the Parisian public was appalled.
We talk about the faun. When you see choreographically the modernity of the faun today, it's something pretty extraordinary. It's like almost no movement. It's one of the first time where the dance doesn't follow systematically the music.
At first, when I was rehearsing it, I told myself, but there's nothing to do in this ballet. And it's a horribly difficult ballet for concentration and positions, because all the positions are turned like this. Your back turned and all, and this kind of third dimension taken away, since everything had to look flat. But with a set at the back and the public in front, to recreate this third dimension on a choreography which was in length and in depth, that was an incredible idea. And Nijinsky was ahead of his time.
Nijinsky était d'avant-garde.
But Faun was a pinprick compared to the bloodbath that was Nijinsky's next piece, Igor Stravinsky's The Rite of Spring. The piece's prehistoric ritual and physical grotesquerie, set to a new experimental score, set the audience off into a cacophony of booing, hissing, and whistling so loud that the dancers could no longer hear the music. According to Nijinsky, the problem had to do with the score, whose rapidly changing time signatures necessitated, he felt, a type of manic movement not found in academic ballet. According to Stravinsky, the problem was never the music. It was Nijinsky himself who, Stravinsky claims, while dancing, made an obscene gesture and the audience didn't like it. More likely, Diaghilev, always looking to shake up the dance establishment, encouraged both men to push the envelope. Diaghilev's ballet Russe survived the scandal, and in time, Nijinsky would be replaced by other dynamic Diaghilev discoveries, including the dancer-choreographer's own sister, Branislava Nijinska. But as the years went by, Diaghilev's enthusiasm for the company waned. He began to take less active interest and to leave the supervision of the works in progress to others. In 1929, while vacationing in Monte Carlo, one of his associates received this telegram. Diaghilev died this morning. Stop. Inform company. Stop. The master showman was dead. There would be no one left to show the way.
We could have done with another 10 years of him, I think. But however, we were all getting now to put a step in our countries, and a little more of Diaghilev would have gone a long way, but we had enough there, goodness knows, to swallow and produce and think about. He was a wonderful man, very practical, very professional.
But in the spring of 1931, Les Ballets Russes, now residing in Paris, appeared here in Monte Carlo. The following year, under the patronage of the Princess of Monaco, the company began a new life as Les Ballets Russes de Monte Carlo.
And I think it's something very unique today, because in a way, when the form of subsidize happened in Europe especially, it had a danger, and it did, bring the people into a kind of such of a security that the money that the government give us became a kind of right. And I always try to remember every day that when a political person gives you money for art, he could definitely give it to something else that would be much more valuable for him as a politician. So it's a chance to get that money. And I think, knowing that it's a chance, I have a responsibility to share with other people. And also because it makes you work more evaluative.
Change in name and the generous patronage of the government, Les Ballets de Monte Carlo is today one of the most popular modern dance companies in the world. No doubt, wherever the old master is today, he's happy in the knowledge that his dancers are now in the hands of the most appreciative patron of all. Not bad for a man with no talent.